Welcome to FRC Media News for Thursday, April 16th, 2020. I'm Keith Tebow. This week, it's been over 20 days since Fall River Public Schools have been learning remotely. We'll get an update from the superintendent. Congressman Joseph Kennedy lends his thoughts on the national response to COVID-19. And are you stressed out over COVID-19? Well, we speak with a clinical psychologist who will tell us how to cope. But first, let's bring in Lynn Sullivan this week. Phil Devitt has the week off. We've got the A-team in this week. We bring in Lynn Sullivan, the editor-in-chief at the Herald News. Hi, Lynn. How are you?
Hi, I'm good.
Nice to see you. I hope all is well.
Yeah.
Let's get right to it. It's been all COVID-19 all the time. And, with the city of Fall River this week, I had the opportunity this morning to speak with Mayor Paul Coogan. It's been a bad week in the city of Fall River in terms of spikes in the number of those who have contracted the disease in the city. Yesterday, the city unfortunately reported its first fatality as a result of COVID-19. And let me just bring in the mayor in a moment, send in a clip. We spoke a lot about how the city has over 160 cases right now, which is a high number. But as compared to other communities, the city is faring well. Let's hear from the mayor.
We don't wish those numbers on the other communities, the Brocktons, the Chelseas, the Lawrences. They may have just gotten hit with it earlier. They may have just been in a bad way. But our numbers are significantly lower than that. We're probably tied with our sister city, New Bedford, right at the bottom of this thing. There's 40. They ranked the top 40 communities in Massachusetts, and we were 38. We have 165, and when you contrast that with Brockton, which is over 1,100, you realize the extent of the battle we could be in if we hadn't caught a break here on this virus.
Lynn, in terms of what you see, you're the editor-in-chief of actually 4 papers: New Bedford, Fall River, Brockton, Taunton. So you have to cover this from all those locations. Is it more difficult, especially in a city like Brockton? They have over 1,200 cases now. How difficult is it seeing what those different cities are going through?
Obviously, it's very difficult. You don't want to be one of the higher cities, obviously, but we know that in cities with a higher population of low-income residents, those are the populations that get hit the hardest whenever something bad comes around. So I can sit here and watch what's happening in Brockton and just sort of, chew my fingernails, like, please don't get like this for Fall River and New Bedford. Because even Taunton, I think they were up to 236 yesterday. So, even Taunton is doing worse. So it makes me nervous. And I know that a lot of the numbers are in nursing homes, which too, we've got big nursing homes down here, and I'd hate to see that happen down here. So I'm sort of cautiously optimistic that maybe we got ahead of it. But hopefully, we'll see how the rest of the week plays out, since we seem to be in the surge, at least according to the governor. So.
Yeah, I know Mayor Coogan also mentioned that he's keeping an eye on those long-term facilities, healthcare facilities, nursing homes and the like, make sure that they're up to date. I know that the Herald has done a lot of reporting, speaking with hospitals. The mayor says that the hospitals appear to be holding their own. What are you hearing on that front?
Yeah, the state even released sort of the capacities of the hospitals yesterday. So we know that they're not near 100% filled for sure. I think they're closer to 50%. So we know that, we're not in an emergency situation yet, but at least we also know that down here they're preparing for the worst. And we've got 2 former nursing homes in New Bedford that are set up for the overflow. And then this week they also announced that they're setting up a field hospital at UMass Dartmouth. Hope it's sort of like car insurance. You hope you never need to deal. You hope you never are in a car crash, but you need to be prepared. And we hope that these field hospitals are unnecessary. We hope that, it's an overreaction or whatever. That's the best case scenario. But at least we know that we're ready in case the situation gets worse.
Yeah, I know that, as long as we're just, reporting on numbers and reporting on the raw data that's coming in with this pandemic. I know that the paper has been doing some other reporting, and some disappointing news, I believe, came out yesterday in that the Diocese of Fall River has had to announce that a couple of its schools will be closing, really in relation to being shut down due to COVID-19. And one of them is Coyle and Cassidy Middle School and High School in Taunton, and another out on the Cape.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the closure of any school is heartbreaking, but I mean, the Coyle and Cassidy community is very tight knit. And I think that this is, it's just, it's a stark reminder of just how bad this crisis is, not just in terms of a health issue, but also in terms of the finances. And it's, I think we're all sort of wondering, like, what else? Is this just the first that we know that's going to fall? And our other, you have to assume that there's going to be businesses or restaurants or whatever that just can't recover from this. And that's just, it's awful.
Yeah, it is. But there was some good news this week. It was reported again, I believe today, online and in the paper, that Amazon, they've announced that they've been doing well throughout this. People are ordering more online. They're not going to stores because of the restrictions imposed by social distancing. And it looks like people in Fall River will be able to benefit with more jobs at the Amazon facility there.
Yeah, they said that they've got 1,800 openings across Mass and 400 right here in Fall River. And they specifically were saying they're seeing a lot of people that have lost their jobs from restaurants or gyms or the other businesses that have been closed during this. And so it is sort of nice to see. I know that, obviously there's concerns about people working in the Amazon facility or anybody who's still working, are they safe? And, but you do wonder, is this going to change how we do things going forward? Like, are more people just going to order stuff straight from Amazon? Are they going to order their groceries instead of going to the grocery stores? And so hopefully these jobs will stick around.
Yeah. And I do want to bring up the point of how the Herald News has been dealing through all this. Newspapers across the country have been reporting that, of course, ad revenue is down. Businesses being closed. They're not advertising in the paper or even online. I know that your parent company, Gannett, has issued some furloughs for employees. They need to take a week off, I believe 1 week over the next 3 months. That's why Phil isn't here this week. He's off. He's taking his furlough week. How's that impacted how you're able to continue to report the news?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough, right? When, you feel like this huge news story is happening and there's just so much to do and so much to report on, we have to just do it with fewer people. I will say, so I had my furlough last week, and I will say, when you're in the midst of such a heart-wrenching story, but on many different fronts, it's personally heart-wrenching. It's devastating for a health perspective, but also from a business perspective. It actually was a little bit nice to have a break and just not think about it. And it's also good in a way for us to go through the unemployment filing and that process and just see what our readers are going through so that we can understand it better for them. So I think it will help us be more cognizant of what, the greater community is going through, and hopefully that will help our reporting.
Yeah, definitely some difficult times for everyone. And I want to thank you for your support and the work that you're doing at the Herald. It's definitely trying times, and thank you for joining us today, and we'll talk soon.
Okay, thanks for having me.
We will take a break now as we hear from the latest on healthcare opportunities from the Mass Hire Fall River Career Center.
Here are urgently needed health-related job descriptions on the latest hot jobs list from the Mass Hire Fall River Career Center. Family Practice Physician. Volro Wound Physicians, located at one government center, has an immediate need for a full-time family practice physician to evaluate, treat, prevent illness, and provide medical care to adults and children. Job number 134-58258. Executive Director, RN. Accent Care Incorporated, a home health agency in the Fall River area, has an immediate need for a full-time Executive Director, RN, responsible for day-to-day operations of all clinical and business functions of the home health agency and its branches to deliver quality patient care. Job number 134-55791. Outpatient Clinician. Arbor Counseling Services, located at 1082 Davall Street, has an immediate need for a full-time outpatient clinician to provide outpatient therapy and clinical services to youth and families. Job number 134-58688. Charlton Memorial Hospital, located at 363 Highland Avenue, has an immediate need for these full and part-time positions. Mental health counselor. Job number 134-51586. Registered nurse. Job number 134-52833. Stepping Stone, located at 542 North Main Street, also has an immediate need for the following full and part-time positions. Counselor. Job number 134-58156. Custodian. Job number 134-58161. For more information on these or other positions, visit Mass Hire JobQuest at jobquest.dcs.eol.mass.gov or call the Mass Hire Fall River Career Center at 508-730-5000.
Welcome back. Fall River youngsters have now spent over 20 days out of school and learning remotely during the pandemic. Fall River School Superintendent Matthew Malone tells us things have gone well, but there's still no substitute to face-to-face learning.
And we've proven, that school can be done on a device now, right? Which is when you think about disruptive technologies and how crisis creates opportunity and disruption, the future is going to look very differently. But the one thing that everyone misses is social connection, and that's what schools do. So you can't make up for what happens in a classroom on Zoom. You can't try to recreate what it means to be part of an athletic team or the band or part of a play on TikTok. It's just not the same. Our unsung heroes right now are really what we call the essential employees, the operations that make everything happen. So our food service people, our security, our custodians, our technological support staff, our payroll people, our clerks, you name those folks, they're doing great work right now. Our frontline professionals, our teachers, our paras, our SPED support staff, our ELL specialists, our content people, they're making sure that all the stuff that kids are doing at home with parents is getting done. So they created the units, they help administer the units. Now they're making contacts every single day with families, both on the academic and the social emotional side, and providing services, whether that be through phone call, through technology, through whatever medium.
So how are the teachers faring? Denise McGuire spoke with some from the Viveris School to see how they are preparing our students to learn remotely.
How were you guys able to prepare it for the online version of the teaching?
Luckily at school, we had already been using a lot of the technology, the Google Classroom, the Khan Academy, different things. I know Ms. Petro had used the Remind app with her parents. So we did have some things in place to sort of make that transition a little bit easier.
We had a pretty solid foundation to start, like Ms. Pedro said, going into it with the Google Classroom already up and running. So at least some of our students had a good grasp.
I think that because the Viveros teachers we work so well together and we're really a team at the school, I think that has helped everybody kind of lean on each other, and especially in our 5th grade team.
Do we have all the students in the class, at least in your 5th grade class?
There's been some students in my homeroom that I still not have been able to find. Phone numbers have been disconnected, or kids are with different family members. And so that really is the hardest part. And then the second part is the Chromebooks, or the lack of access to the materials that we are trying to get to kids. Even just today, we've just started to adjust and send the work through apps instead of having it on the Google Classroom platform that they are unable to access on their phones. We're trying to find any way that we can get to the kids, through apps or through just phone calls.
We're reaching a lot of our students, but like what Liz said, not 100% as of yet because of, the challenges with the technology and the issues with the equity there.
The district had the packets to be picked up at school.
They do have the links available on the website. So if kids can't get to the school to get a packet, it is available. However, if they wanted to complete the work, and I mean, like it's a lot of paper, so there would be a lot of printing that they would have to do.
Are you guys planning on collecting the packets?
We certainly want to, look at their work and use that. And, they've worked so hard on it. They continue to work so hard on all of these packets. But right now that is a little bit of to be determined.
Any word of advice from your experience so far to any fellow teachers out there?
Continue to support one another and communicate, be flexible.
But if any of the parents need, their teacher or need help or explaining, like don't hesitate to ask.
Please reach out to us if you need anything. We're wanting to help.
Finally, any word of support and advice for the kids?
If you have any books at home that you haven't had time to read this year with all of your busy work in 5th grade, it's a great time to pick up a book and fall in love with reading.
Just stay healthy, try their best on their work, and, be kind to anybody that they're living with, because it's not easy for anyone right now.
Congressman Joseph Kennedy, whose district includes parts of Fall River, remains at home, as are the rest of his colleagues who are eager to get back to Washington on May 4th. The congressman has been working from his district, helping residents and small businesses secure unemployment benefits and loan guarantees. He has also, from afar, been critical of President Trump and his handling of the crisis, as well as his performance at daily press briefings.
Not only are they not a reflection of reality, they're an attempt to rewrite history in the middle of a pandemic. Take that time, Mr. President, rather than getting in a fight with journalists and getting in a fight as to what you could have done or what you should have done, or the things that we needed you to do a month ago, 6 weeks ago, 2 months ago, a couple of years ago, literally a couple of years ago. And instead, make sure that you actually have a system put in place so that our states can get PPE for their doctors and their first responders. Redesign a system so you don't have states bidding against each other and dragging the price up. Make sure that they don't get outbid by the federal government. Make sure that we don't have shipments of PPE sitting in customs for days, as a Boston area hospital has had. Try to make sure that we actually make this system work better for people. Challenge the American industry to come up with sufficient supplies of ventilators. Because you know what? Even here in Massachusetts, we are on razor's edge about whether we're going to be able to actually supply a ventilator to every person that needs one. And we might not. Our hospital administrators had to come up with a plan about who gets one and who doesn't. Who gets access to vital, life-saving medical interventions and who doesn't. In the United States of America, in Boston, Massachusetts, with one of the most advanced healthcare systems anywhere in the world, we still have to make that choice because we were not prepared.
Moving forward, Congressman Kennedy believes more must be done to help individuals and businesses survive the pandemic, while also keeping in mind providing aid to states and local cities.
Many communities, obviously, tax collections lag an economic crisis. So many state budgets and even city budgets, they're not collecting taxes in the past couple of weeks, right? So those budgets should have some resources in it. That being said, the expenditures that are coming out now are enormous compared to what people expected. Unemployment assistance in some communities and in some states is already running low. So we need to provide additional assistance there. We're certainly going to need to provide, federal government's going to need to provide far more assistance to state and local governments going forward, though. So as states have basically spent an enormous amount of resources in the short term here to try to stave off the worst impacts of this crisis, they're going to turn around and need support, and their economies are not going to come anywhere near providing the tax revenue that was forecasted even a month ago. And so the federal government's going to have to step up and fill that stopgap. So yes, absolutely, whether that happens if an emergency package is provided in the next 2 weeks, or if that comes in another month, that needs to happen.
Not being able to speak to loved ones in person has been an unfortunate reality as we all deal with COVID-19. Now, for many of us, that means not being able to visit someone who still may be close to home. Our Denise McGuire has spoken recently to a Fall River student in Spain who has not been able to come home while also trying to complete her studies.
I ended up getting a Fulbright scholarship to come out to Spain to basically teach and assist the English language teachers.
How is it life in the place where you are at Santiago de Compostela?
I'm one of the lucky ones. The region that I'm in has not been badly affected. Of course, there are cases here, but for the most part, it's a little bit more calm here than it would be in Madrid. However, my life has changed quite a bit, as the Spanish lifestyle is to not be indoors. We are usually outside and hugging people and, you know, always being around people, and now it's just isolation. So I think the restrictions here are a lot more strict than what I've been reading about in the US. Here, we can only leave for supermarkets, the laundromat, and the pharmacy. That's it. So if you're caught like lollygagging in the streets, the police can give you a pretty hefty fine of like at least 600 euros. I think the people here have a very strong sense of responsibility. There's a lot of elderly people in this city too. And so people are doing a really good job at staying home. Like in the supermarkets, there's nobody that has to tell you to social distance when you're in the lines. Like the people automatically stand like 6 to 8 feet apart. People wear masks, they wear gloves, they automatically will sanitize as they're coming in and out of the grocery store. So people really do, they seem to understand the severity of it, especially because they saw what happened in Italy.
Are you guys still teaching, or are you guys teaching online? How has things changed?
All of a sudden, the region started closing down, and then our region closed down. They decided, okay, for 2 weeks, you're not coming in. So we figured, okay, that's fine. We can suspend classes for 2 weeks. So during that time, they didn't assign any online homework or anything like that. The following week, after Trump issued the travel ban, Spain went from like a level 3 advisory to a level 4. And once it becomes like a level 4, like a do not travel country, the funding had to get cut. So basically Fulbright got cut worldwide. So technically I'm actually unemployed out here now.
So it is the Fulbright Spain Commission, the one that decided to pay for the full year?
Yes, they decided to pay us the rest of the year. And so the agreement is, okay, we're going to pay you, but if your teachers ask you to do like online work, you have to do it, which is fine. We were advised to go home, but I had the option of staying because they paid me. Hypothetically, even if this cleared up by May and the kids go back to school, I can't even teach in the schools anymore because my grant has officially been completed.
When was your grant supposed to be officially completed?
June 12th was when it was supposed to be finished, but it ended up wrapping up like March 13th when everything closed.
Any maybe words of advice?
Perhaps look at the news a little bit more skeptically, because I see a lot of misinformation on Facebook, a lot of like talk about how this is so bad for the economy and all this stuff. And of course, yes, it's bad for the economy, but I hope that people realize that human lives are a little bit more important than, buying material items, and stay inside.
We'll have more right after this.
Thank you for considering a homeless pet today. I hope you enjoy what you're about to see, and as always, please feel free to contact the shelter before coming down to make sure that the pets you're viewing are still available for adoption. We can be reached at 508-677-9154.
Today we have the beautiful Miss May. So May is a 2-year-old lab mix. As you can see, she's pretty shy. She needs some time to come out of her shell. May would do best in a home with no children, just because she is pretty shy and children would probably be too much for her. She does, however, absolutely love other dogs, and when there's another dog around, you will see an entirely different May. She is very happy, very energetic, very loving, and all she wants to do is play. She also doesn't seem to mind cats, so if you have a cat at home who would like a dog friend, May might be the one for them. If you want to see May reach her full potential, best to have her in a home with another dog. Come on down to Forever Paws Animal Shelter at 300 Linwood Street and say hi.
Hi, welcome to Hot Dogs and Cool Cats. Today we have Mildred. Mildred here is 3.5 years old. As you can see, she's taking a little bit of a nap, but she's a really sweet cat. She is, of course, female. She's a long-haired cat, and you can tell she's a little bit mixed. She's got a little smush face right here, and tiny, tiny little ears. It makes it very, very cute. But she would make a very good TV watching companion. She kind of just likes to hang out. She likes to get pet, where she's got really soft hair. She is very, very pettable. She would do well with other cats, so if you'd like to meet Mildred here, you can come on down to 300 Linwood Street in Fall River, Massachusetts at Forever Paws Animal Shelter.
Being stuck at home, maybe unemployed, not being able to see loved ones. This all contributes to the growing level of anxiety that has surfaced during the COVID-19 pandemic. Clinical psychologist Dr. George Armesto says the sudden series of events is extremely painful.
This is trauma. We're all experiencing trauma, pretty severe trauma at very different levels. And the other thing that we're experiencing as individuals and as a society is a lot of grief. And that often we're not aware of that. We're aware of the anxiety. We might be aware of sadness, but we're not aware of the grief. And grief is hard on the body, and it changes us. And so how do we work with grief? Because there's been a lot of losses. For some of us, we have lost family members that have died in hospitals and we can't be next to them. I can't imagine anything worse than that. For some of us have been the loss of dreams, perhaps people who were planning their wedding and they had planned it for 2 years and they had to cancel it. Or many other losses, the loss of having a routine, of connecting, of seeing your children if they're adult children that don't live with you. All these are losses that we are experiencing every day, all of us. And that's going to take a long time to metabolize.
Dr. Armesto says to deal with all this anxiety, we need to simplify our life.
Go back to basics. Do things that bring joy to your life in this moment. And that might be difficult to sometimes even imagine, but even small things. Enjoying a cup of tea, taking a break and enjoying a cup of tea while you're staring out the window and looking at the birds, taking a warm bath, perhaps doing some yoga at home if that's something that speaks to you, or working out at home. Just going back to basics, and especially things that disconnect you from electronics, because we are behind in front of screens all the time. And so if you can disconnect from electronics, will be very helpful. And the other important behavioral thing is there's a lot of people reporting sleeping problems as a result of the stress, but also the blue light that we are getting from the screens and being in front of a screen all day. So if you can shut off the screens at least a couple of hours before going to bed and engage in reading or playing board games, or things that don't involve being in front of a computer or any electronic device like your phone, that can be very helpful in starting to, settle the system and calm the nervous system.
That's all for this edition of FRC Media News. We invite you to join us at our website, frmedia.org, for the latest information on COVID-19, as well as our Channel 95 program schedule. We are regularly producing local informational programs that we are posting online as well as on Channel 95. You can watch FRC Media News Thursdays and Fridays at 6 p.m. For all of us here at FRC Media News, I'm Keith Tebow. Please remain safe, and we'll talk next Thursday.